Hello there. If you are old friends, welcome back. And if you are new, I'm Brooke. And on this channel, I cover everything from DIYs to home decor to thrifting, etc. This week, I am kicking off a wedding series. Chase and I just celebrated our 5-year anniversary, which just seems insane. Like I'm still pretty sure I'm getting over the stress of planning a DIY wedding, and it's been 5 years. Proceed with caution. We had a very DIY wedding and I learned so much. So I'm going to break this up into a few parts because there's just so much to cover. So if that's something that you're interested in, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so that you don't miss a thing. Today I'm talking about invitations. I'll show you ours, how we made them, and then I'll give you an alternative that is even easier and cheaper to create. Your invitations will be one of the first things to check off of your list, and they should reflect the tone you're trying to set. That being said, they can get very expensive, and in hindsight, I probably would have done ours a little bit differently. We got married just outside of Yosemite in a beautiful forest setting. To reflect that, Chase thought it would be neat to have invitations made of wood. It is neat. It's not cheap. Even if you DIY them, it's still fairly expensive and quite a lot of work. Here's one of our invitations, and they really did turn out beautifully. But let me break it down for you. So we ordered a roll of wood veneer, and that cost us, I think, around $70. What you'll do is decide on the size of your invite. I think these are 5x7, that's pretty standard, and then you'll multiply that by the number of invites you have to make, and that's how much wood veneer you'll need. So if you're having a giant wedding, you'll be sending out more invitations. We had about 70 people sitting down, so that means we sent out no more than 30 invitations because most of those were couples or families. That means you should estimate between like $2 to $3 per invitation just for the veneer. Okay. That's the first step. Then we had a calligrapher design our template, and that's another cost that will vary depending on who you go with and what their rates are and how much they're designing. Sometimes you'll just have them design the actual invitation. Sometimes they will design the entire invitation suite, which is typically the invite, the save the date, and then an RSVP card. So there's like 3 elements of the invite. Also, you could have a calligrapher address the envelopes if you're fancy. There's a lot of cost. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Okay, let's keep going. After we got our template back from the calligrapher, I sent it to a custom stamp maker on Etsy, and they created these big, beautiful rubber stamps for us. It's really helpful that they are on this clear acrylic because when you are stamping, it just helps to be accurate. You can see where you are laying it down and how it is lining up on your piece of wood veneer or your paper, whatever you're stamping on. So now I have these stamps that I'm never gonna use these again, but I can't get rid of them because they're from our wedding. Okay, so now you have all of the pieces. You have your veneer, you have your stamps, and now it's time to assemble everything. Chase and I cut the pieces of the wood together, and I just remember getting very nitpicky and him telling me that I don't work well in groups, and that may be true, but who wants crooked lines? Now comes the fun part, when you get to actually assemble your invitation suite and stamp everything. But of course, stamping was just not enough for me. I had to have them embossed, which gives them that nice textured detail. And also, I think it was because I wanted them gold, which in hindsight, I'll talk about that later. This was a technique that my grandma taught me, and I'm pretty sure I already had all of the tools. If you're not familiar, you basically stamp on a very sticky clear ink, add the powder, tap off the excess, and set it with your heat gun. It's actually pretty satisfying and not too hard to master. It's just a lot of steps, and you have to be pretty precise and make sure that you don't have excess powder on there. I use a tiny dry paintbrush to sweep away any loose powder that wouldn't tap off. I actually had some of my bridesmaids come over and we formed an assembly line where somebody would stamp, someone would add the powder, someone would brush all of the excess powder off, someone would use the heat gun. I think one of my maids of honor was sitting there putting our this liner in here because I also decided that I needed to have lined envelopes so that when you open them, they would be spectacular. You guys, just it's nobody's gonna keep these. I don't know why. You get married once. That's it. You get married once, ideally, and so you go all out. Yeah, I guess that's fine. After all of that, they turned out beautifully. They are exactly what I had in my head. But I have some takeaways that I'll share with you. Let's go through them. On a technical note, I probably wouldn't have gone with this gold. Maybe I would have changed it to white or changed the veneer to a darker veneer if I wanted to go with gold. And the reason is it's so hard to read these. I mean, they're so... if you catch the light, you kind of have to read them like this. Oh yeah, there's the address, which by the way, the address is actually wrong on the invitations too. And I didn't know that until the day of the wedding. But on the day of your wedding, you don't care anymore. My mom just made like a big sign and put it out on the road, and it was fine. They all got there. Most people are going to toss these fairly soon after they open them. So my feeling on this now is if you want a beautiful invitation for a flat lay photo, or if you want to frame it, make one. Make a beautiful invitation for yourself. Make 3. But not everybody needs a wooden invitation if it's not in your budget. If it is, go crazy. If it's in your budget, you probably we'll just have somebody make it for you, honestly. Because I don't think I would do this again. You can still DIY a gorgeous invitation without spending as much and without doing as much work. And I'm going to show you now what we did for my sister-in-law. I took her to our local craft store and we chose some cardstock that fit within her wedding palette. I had already purchased this font. This is called Fashionista, and I think it was less than $10. You can buy so many different fonts and download them to your computer. And I was able to use this for some of our wedding signs and name cards. And instead of hiring a calligrapher for her invites, we created our own template with a font I already had. So we printed them off, cut those clean lines with a paper trimmer, and then to give it a more finished look, we just trimmed the corners. This is a rounder punch, so your corner fits in perfectly perpendicular, and then you just snip off the corner and it rounds it out for you, and it gives you a really nice finished look. You can get these corner rounder punches at the craft store. I already had this as well, but I think they're under $10 at Michael's, and you can use a coupon if they aren't on sale. Finally, to give it a more upgraded feel, we did add some embossing, but just on the corners, so it was a much easier process. If I were doing my wedding invitations again today, I would probably go more this route. It was just so much simpler and cheaper, and I might still hire a calligrapher because I loved what Courtney designed for us. You get a variation and personalization that you can't with just a single font. It's really up to you. You can choose which aspects you'd like to outsource and hire professionals for, and what things you think you can do on your own. I just hope this gets those creative juices flowing and inspires you to think outside the box so that you can come up with something that fits with your budget, but also feels personal and intentional. Let me know if this helped, and if you do create your own invitations, please tag me on social media so I can see what you've come up with. You can find me on TikTok at Brooke Darwin, or It's Brooke Darwin on Instagram. As I said, I'm planning to do a few more of these wedding tutorials, but if there's something specific that you'd like me to cover, just let me know in the comments and I will try to make it happen. Thanks so much for being here. If this video was helpful, please give it a thumbs up before you go. It helps me reach more brides on a budget, and it helps me make more thrifty DIY wedding content for you. Happy wedding planning, and I'll see you next time.